Namo Buddhaya. Good evening. Welcome to the Buddha Dhamma TV. I am Karen Tan. Today we start our program, as always, with a blessing service led by Venerable Buddhist monks. To attain the desired calmness, please listen to the chanting mindfully and peacefully. Venerable Bande Kovida delivered a fascinating sermon yesterday on 3 characteristics of existence. Let's welcome Venerable Bande Kovida from Canada to deliver the second part of his talk.
The ability to look at something, know it is impermanent, it is unsatisfactory, and you let it go. Because what is interesting about desire is that the wanting mind is something very natural in our human condition. And it starts very early. And those of you who have had young children can relate to this. Once young children, are like 10 months, 11 months, they're getting more energetic, they're learning to stand, learning to walk, they become more aware of the environment. And of course, they want to play, they want to touch, it's okay, with everything. And of course, if a child is playing with something and you take it away from them, what do? They cry. Or they want to play with something and you prevent them from taking this thing, they cry. So this wanting mind is something very natural in the human condition. It starts so early, it's amazing. And then when a child begins to vocalize, then the mental identification comes in, I want, or I don't want. I want. So what the Dharma is teaching us is that the wanting, desire, the craving is something very natural, but it only becomes a source of conflict, of dukkha, when we identify with it. When we say, I want this, or I must have this. That mental identification. Because then we believe that if I don't get what I want, I'm going to be unhappy. And we think I might be unhappy for the rest of my life. And if I get what I want, I'm going to be happy for the rest of my life. But as you know from experience, even if you feel happy with whatever you have or whatever you have achieved, that happiness, it doesn't last very long. Somebody once said 2 weeks maximum. And the happiness you get from just buying something, because it always feels good when you buy something, it doesn't last very long. I would say maybe 3 days, maybe maximum. And that's why there are some people are addicted to shopping. Because, you know, they're feeling a bit down, a little bored, a little upset. So they get shopping to feel good. And you do feel good. But then you come home, and then after 1, 2, 3 days, that feeling goes away. And the craving mind says, I have to go out and buy something again. Because you want to feel good. So in other words, shopping for some people has become a form of drug. You want to buy something to feel good. And that's why people can't save money anymore. And there are some places now in the West, there's therapists who are treating compulsive shoppers. Because there are some people, they can't control themselves. You know, thousands of dollars in debt. They just can't control themselves. I hope that it doesn't get as bad here as in KL. Also, what is interesting, you know, before the credit card, you remember the end of the month was payday. And payday used to be a very happy day. Can you remember that before the credit card? You must think I'm over 100, right? I'm really a dinosaur. But today, very often, when it's payday, for most people, it's not a happy day. Can you guess why? Because they've already spent it because of the credit card. Yeah. So you just reminded them, oh my God, I've already spent it, and sometimes overspent. So this is the wisdom of simplicity and renunciation. And also an aspect of renunciation is, as we said, we're in the habit of identifying our feelings and emotions. A happy feeling arises, we say, I am happy. It sounds perfectly natural. Unhappy feeling arises, we say, I am unhappy. Or I'm upset, or I'm angry, I'm bored, I'm afraid, and so on. That is our habit. And because we have the habit of identifying with these feelings and emotions, we hold on to them as something personal, right? My happiness or my unhappiness, or my fear, my frustration, and so on. Now, initially, when we identify with happiness, there is no dukkha, there is no conflict. Why is that? Because it's pleasant. Right? It feels good. But when we say I am unhappy, or I'm upset, I'm afraid, and so on, immediately there is dukkha, right? Some conflict, some disturbance in the mind, simply because they are unpleasant states. So what the Dharma is showing us is that whether something is pleasant or unpleasant, they don't really belong to us. And again, this is very radical, because we're in the habit of identification, of grasping, so we take all these feelings and emotions personally. But in fact, they're only temporary mental states. They come, they go. Not me, not mine. So this is why in mindfulness, we're able to see things more objectively. For example, instead of saying, I am angry, or I'm upset, you just breathe mindfully and you say, there is a state of anger, or there is anger, there's a state of upset, there's a state of fear. You see the difference? Not I am afraid or I am upset. It's a very big difference. Because when we can see things objectively, we're seeing it, there's a distance between that mental state and our awareness. Whereas when we hold on to it, we identify with it, there's no space, and we hold on to it. You know, my anger, my afraid, my frustration, my boredom, my loneliness, and of course my happiness. And of course we come back to mindfulness, and also we remind ourselves, this too shall pass. It's only a temporary mental state. You know, these four words contain the greatest wisdom in human experience. This too shall pass. It's only a temporary mental state, a changing condition of the mind. Also, you find that when we don't identify with a feeling or emotion, there is no conflict around that emotion or feeling. For example, if I say, I'm angry, and sometimes I'll say, oh, this is terrible, I shouldn't be angry. I'm such a bad Buddhist. Or I'm such a bad meditator. And then you start feeling guilty. Do you see that? Or I shouldn't have craving, or I shouldn't be jealous. Or, you know, you see the conflict and the guilt that comes with it. But when you don't identify with something and you just see it as it is, then there is no conflict. And now modern psychotherapists are using this method. They call it mindfulness-based psychotherapy. And this is exactly what the Buddha taught over 2,500 years ago. Even stress, instead of saying I am stressed, just say there is stress. Or there's a state of stress. And you remind yourself, it is impermanent. And of course, there are mindfulness practices you can do to deal with stress or anger. This is one of the reasons why I'm doing Qigong, because Qigong is very easy and it's good to deal with strong emotions. Because I know it's not easy to sit with anger or being very upset or being very depressed. You need something physical, some form of movement to dissipate that energy of anger or depression or upset and so on. And same with fear also. In Singapore, I was able to conduct 3 cemetery meditations. I tried it in Malaysia, but without success. Inviting people to meditate with me at night, yes, in the graveyard, to overcome the fear of ghosts and spirits. And everyone usually laughs, but not many people will come. They're not brave enough. But in Penang, I had a very good opportunity because there was a new center there. It's not new anymore, but a few years ago. Bodhi Heart. And the location was ideal because it was right in the middle of the cemetery. And you know, there were graves everywhere, you couldn't avoid them. So I encouraged 12 people to do it, and we sat, but after 5 minutes the rain started. And I thought, don't worry, we just sit here, it will go away. It didn't go away. So we sat there for a few minutes and we were half soaked, and I said, I think we better go inside. So I think the ghosts and spirits were having the last laugh. But in Singapore it was very successful, and we got there about an hour before sunset, so we had a lot of light to practice, to focus. So by the time it got darker and darker, people were very, very calm. But initially people were really scared. And I would tell people, don't sit too close. Huh? Everybody wanted to sit close together. No, that's cheating, you know, sit here. And one lady from Indonesia, she was really nervous, and I said, sit here. You know, the graves, each grave has a picture, right, of the deceased. And she said, Bhante, are you really sure about this? I said, the ghost is not going to complain, okay? Not going to complain. And then she said, but suppose I tried all the things that you suggested to overcome this fear and it doesn't work. What shall I do? And I quickly got an idea, and I said, sing the happy birthday song. You know, happy birthday to you. And she was so surprised that I said that, she started laughing. And because she started laughing, the nervousness, the fear went away. And she ended up having a very, very good meditation. And at the end, people were very happy and inspired that they were able to overcome this fear. Because as you know, it's a childhood fear from early childhood. And it's all in the mind, all in the mind. Now, one of the things I like to speak about is guilt, dealing with guilt, because many people have this problem. I don't know in North America, but I think it's a universal problem. Now, when we make mistakes, it is natural to have regrets, right? You know, what we did, what we said, or sometimes what we didn't say, what we didn't do, or I should have done that, or I should have done that, blah, blah, blah. You know, the regretful mind. But if we keep regretting and feeling guilty, we end up torturing ourselves. You create more conflict, more dukkha. So this is why it's important that when we make mistakes, we have to forgive ourselves for being human. Because we're not perfect. But because of our social conditioning and our judgmental mind, we think we ought to be perfect. But it is only a concept, the idea of perfection. So you can say it is perfectly natural to make mistakes. So it's very important. And this is the benefits of loving kindness and compassion. Because you're replacing those negative judgmental thoughts with kind, positive thoughts. May I be well, happy, and peaceful. May I be free from fear, conflict, and delusion. May all beings be well, happy, and peaceful. May all beings be free from fear, conflict, and delusion. Because guilt is an aspect of fear. Why this is so is because we have negative images. You know, when you have a conflict with somebody, we tend to create a negative image, right, of that person. So likewise, when we make mistakes and we're feeling guilty, we put negative images on ourselves. You know, I'm so terrible, I'm so stupid, I'm so bad. I'm going to go to hell, or being punished, or I'm going to have a bad rebirth, bad karma, you know, all these things. So that's an aspect of fear. Because anything negative naturally creates fear in the mind. So this is the benefit of loving kindness and compassion. We have to learn to be more kind to ourselves when we make mistakes. And believe me, we all make mistakes. Monks included. Because monks are human. Don't expect monks to be perfect. Okay, I just want to have a reading here. We get carried away with our restless minds and chase our thoughts and ideas or feelings and emotions. We get caught by them. And so we create a lot of problems for ourselves. Some people get totally carried away and do crazy, irrational things, even commit crimes and hurt people. We are often victims of our own mental, emotional states because we don't know how to watch our minds with awareness and let these mental states go. Normally, we see the world with our conditioned minds. Our view of the world is colored by our judgments and discriminations, our likes and dislikes, our desires and aversions, our hopes and fears, our worries and anxieties. Rarely, so our perception of reality is limited by our mental states, by how we see and react to the world. Rarely do we see the world with a calm, clear mind. Rarely do we see things as they are with clear attention. The restless, untrained mind is vulnerable to circumstances. It is easily affected by changing conditions. Sometimes good or pleasant things happen in the world and the mind is happy. Sometimes bad or unpleasant things happen and the mind gets upset. There is suffering, dis-ease. Our state of mind depends on how we react to things or situations. It can remain cool and calm or become heated and upset depending on how personally we take things. One who follows the path of mindfulness has less fear and anxiety. One can be calm and patient despite the changes and accidents around him or her because one sees things as they are, constantly changing, impermanent, unsatisfactory, and empty of a permanent self. Although there are problems and challenges in life, one can be calm and patient without anger or resentment. Being impatient and angry or irritable does not remove the problem. It only causes more suffering and makes the problem worse. With patient endurance, wisdom, and determination, mental emotional suffering is overcome and the mind becomes peaceful. One is light-hearted, optimistic, and free, not gloomy and depressed. So at this time, I'd like to welcome any questions. Any questions at this time? Yes.
I have one question. Before a person doing a bad thing, after doing the bad thing, he said, "Oh, someone pushed me to do the bad thing." Is it true or not true? Now I want to kill a person. Before he do, he must say.
I know they're blaming something else.
Is it true or not true?
Well, let's just say it's irresponsible. It's immature and a very ignorant behavior to blame someone for your actions, because really you're responsible for your own actions, for your own speech, your own behavior, and so on. So this is what karma is about, what we do and the results of that action. Yes, I know there are some people that they'll blame everything else but themselves. That's right. Or they say, "Oh, past karma from a past life, so I'm not responsible." or this ghost or spirit, right, is guiding me. Yeah, it's not being mature, not being responsible like this.
Why do we do that?
Huh?
Why do we do that? Why do
Well, again, because of our mental defilements, you know, being suffering from ignorance and delusion. So.
none of this is sit there and say, "Oh, it was my fault. It was my fault."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even in saying that, that's not like right.
Part of it is fear, just human fear. So out of fear, we blame others, or we can't take responsibility because we're protecting this I, right? When we protect this I, naturally fear, insecurity is there. This is why they say the true freedom is realizing emptiness or no self. So one can be responsible and act more with maturity, with kindness, with compassion, which is very different from acting out of fear. Because fear is a very strong force, isn't it? Yeah. Later on I'll be speaking, I think one evening I'll be speaking about fear, understanding the nature of fear and insecurity. And it's a good topic to speak about because we can all relate to fear, right? It's a part of the human condition. All of it. And it is really fascinating when you investigate the nature of fear and become, how do you say, become more familiar with fear. You can say making friends with fear, as seeing fear as something frightening, just like facing ghosts and spirits, like this. Yes.
What about this world? The world so big. I come to this world, body is right here. The world not stop, just like the body stop. Tell me about it. Why you come to this world?
Well, you're asking for a reason. Cause and conditions.
But
And-
how to become this world?
And also you must understand that we're not separate from the world. But you see, language is often misleading. We often say, I came into the world, or we came into the world. Now, if we look at that statement a bit closer, I came into the world, it gives the impression that we came from another solar system and we landed here in our spaceship. And we're like aliens, we're like tourists. Aliens. Do you see that, what I'm trying to say?
I know. But the thing is, how did you become this world?
Just a moment. But what is interesting is that we didn't come into the world as outsiders, as aliens, but rather we came out of the world. You see the difference? We came out of the world like flowers, leaves, and fruits from trees. Or like waves from the surface of the ocean. And when composed of the elements, the energy. Energy, everything is energy, the elements, and of course from the sun. That's right, cause and conditions, the elements. Yes.
Animals, man, also form this world. How did they come this world? From two things. Go through the father mother. Goes into this world.
Yes.
Animals, same thing also. Animals, also same thing.
That's right, biological reasons. Yes.
The world, there are four things in this world. You don't understand.
Yes.
Four things. Without these four things, you won't be this world. Okay.
That's right.
One is the sea. The sea. Okay. Tree. Third one is ice. Sun. These four. Without these four, you won't be this world. Right? Right.
Because sometimes people ask me, why was I born? But it's so obvious. I said, well, your parents got together one night to have a little fun, and the conditions were right, and here you are. And they said, oh, I never thought of that. But there's some couples, they try to conceive a child and they can't because the conditions are not there. And sometimes they're able to conceive, but the conditions in the uterus, in the womb, is not conducive, and so there is miscarriage. It's like this. Yeah, so the conditions, not only the cause, but the conditions have to be right. And in a way, it's a miracle that we're still alive right now. That we're still alive. Very interesting. Yes, sir.
Bante, I'd just like to follow up on what you mentioned about technology. Well, I appreciate the fact that you have not sent out a text. But in our life, we have a lot of things which arise and fall. One of it is innovation. So in that sense, are we to judge a smartphone or use it wisely? See, there is a lot of school of thought about a knife. It can kill someone, it can also be used to cut vegetables and prepare a meal.
Yeah, no, I understand. It can be a very convenient thing, but the only problem is the attachment. Because I see how attached people are. They can't even stop eating. I watch people in Singapore having lunch, and they can't stop looking at it, even for 10 minutes. And I can see clearly because I don't have one, so I observe everyone on their smartphones. Yeah, it's the attachment. It's the attachment that's the problem. That's right.
Attachment is the dukkha.
That's right.
Not the phone, right?
Yeah, just like as we say, we all have an eye, because it's a part of our human makeup, but it's the attachment. In other words, when we take ourselves too seriously, that is the source of dukkha, taking ourselves too seriously.
In that sense, coming from what you just mentioned, I find that whenever something arises and something falls, we should be able to sense what is transpiring. The problem is we take things to be permanent. In that sense, a lot of times within us, there are a lot of questions arising from a mental state. So where does this question come from? See, where does these questions which arise in us actually come from? This is actually the source of our problem actually, because we're always questioning ourselves, always judging ourselves, always feeling ourselves to be inadequate.
Yes. Mm. Part of it is just human curiosity and just not really understanding something clearly. So there's some doubt, there's some confusion. Because sometimes when people ask me why, why this is so and so and so, sometimes I say, why not? Because you can always say why, or why not? And sometimes things are just the way they are. Things are just the way they are. Part of the conditioning we have to is about beginning and end, start and finish. So the cosmologists, the people who study the universe, they're very obsessed about the origin of the universe, the Big Bang Theory, and even the end of the universe. But when you understand the conditioning of the mind, you realize it's a waste of time. And when the Buddha was asked these speculative questions, he just kept silent, because he said it's not important. But the wonderful thing in meditation, when you experience the silence, the stillness of the mind, you're in touch with the timeless dimension of the universe. And it's a very peaceful experience. And it is possible, even for half an hour. Because, in daily life, we're so conditioned with time, right? And past and future. And of course, schedule and all this stuff, man-made time. And that creates anxiety, that creates stress, because stress is also time-related. And time is also a factor of fear, anxiety. So that's why it's so beneficial when we can spend at least half an hour, just to be quiet, be silent, and just to be in that timeless state. And you can tell from your own experience how peaceful it is, very peaceful, just to be in that stillness, that timeless state. Okay, before we finish, I'd just like to do a reading. It's called Dhammavadaka, very beautiful. And this is on internet, because now everything is on internet, Dhammavadaka. Remember always that you're just a visitor here, a traveler passing through. Your stay is but short and the moment of your departure unknown. None can live without toil and work, and the craft that provides your needs is a blessing indeed. But if you toil without rest, fatigue and weariness will overtake you, and you will be denied the joy that comes from labor's end. Speak quietly and kindly, and not be forward with either opinions or advice. If you talk too much, this will make you deaf to what others say. You should know that there are few of us so wise that they cannot learn from others. Be near when help is needed, but far when praise and thanks are being offered. Take small account of might, wealth, and fame, for they soon pass and are forgotten. Indeed, cultivate love within you and strive to be a friend to all. Truly, compassion is a balm for many wounds. Treasure silence when you find it, and while being mindful of your duties, set time aside to be alone with yourself. Cast off pretense and self-deception and see yourself as you really are. Despite all appearances, no one is really evil. They are simply led astray by ignorance and delusion. If you ponder this truth always, you will offer more light rather than blame and condemnation. You, no less than all beings, have Buddha nature within. Your essential mind is pure. Therefore, when defilements cause you to stumble and fall, let not remorse or dark foreboding cast you down. Be of good cheer, and with this understanding, summon strength and walk on. Faith is like a lamp, and wisdom makes the flame burn bright. Carry this lamp always, and in good time the darkness will yield, and you will abide in the light of wisdom, peace, and compassion. So may you all be well, peaceful, and happy.
Let's take a short break to enjoy a melodious nectar song. This is a very meaningful and devotional hymn. Let's listen to it together with the admiration of the composers.
沉重叮当，暮鼓咚咚，敲醒了迷失的梦。神有涯，事无穷，好时光须珍重。神有涯，事无穷，好时光须珍重。羊脂一滴，真甘露，把心意灌溉滋润，洒得山河大地春，让生命光辉永恒。
Yesterday, the question and answers section conducted by Dr. Bande Punaji was welcomed by many. I hope you are going to have a better session today of the questions and answers section. Please welcome Dr. Bande Punaji to conduct the second and the final sessions.
Freudians, the followers of Freud, they continued to hold on to the idea of the self. And for them, psychotherapy is they saw it as a feeling of inferiority which was brought by Adler. So the later Freudians began to follow Adler. It was Adler who was also a contemporary of Freud, who was like a student of Freud, but he took a different view that all mental problems are based on the feeling of inferiority. And you begin to feel inferior in comparison to others. You always feel weak because, you see, some of these mothers, when they bring up the children, say they bring up a girl and the mother is cooking and the girl comes to cook. Oh, don't, you can't cook, you can't cook. I will do the cooking for you. Or when the girl tries to wash the clothes, oh, no, you can't wash clothes, I will do the washing for you. So if that mother trains that girl in that way, after some time, the girl can't cook, the girl can't wash the clothes, and even say sweeping the floor or something, that is also not allowed. And ultimately that girl, when going out as an adult, all the other people can cook and I can't cook. And all the other people can do all the other things, I can't. I don't know, I am helpless. So you begin to feel inferior to the others. I can't do this, others can do it. So that is that inferiority feeling that comes up. So Adler saw that all these neurosis is the result of this feeling of inferiority. And so their method was to somehow make the person feel not necessarily superior to others, but at least equal to others. So that makes that person sick. That's the real thing. So you have to be careful not to get into that.
Not to be inferior.
Huh?
Not to think you're inferior or superior.
What?
Not to think about inferiority or superiority.
Yeah. Not to think in terms of inferiority or superiority. But if you have not learned to drive a car, and if you don't have a license to drive, you can always learn to drive, and then you'll have the license and you'll be able to drive. So it is a thing like that. If you don't know how to type, then you can learn to type. If you don't know how to play a musical instrument, then you can learn that. There are no people who can't do things. Everyone can do. It's a matter of learning. Now, if you have not learned to write properly with your hand, you can learn to write. If your handwriting is not good, you can learn the handwriting. So everything can be learned. So it's a matter of learning. If you can't do mathematics, you can learn to do mathematics. It's like that. So you should not think that I can't do. Every human being can do something. Of course, a blind person can't see. You can't make that person see unless someone performs an operation or something. But some people cannot be made to see even with an operation. So, but still there are things that you can do. This is why blind people are taught how to walk on the street with a cane or something like that. And there are, in Malaysia, lot of blind people, they are, I don't know, they are kept in a special place and they are taught all these things. And they come to our temple there. A lot of blind people come. And they can do many things that we can't do. Because they have been taught to do various things. So this is very important to understand. That is why there was that man, you may have seen on YouTube, the man without legs and without arms, standing on the table and talking. Have you seen that man? Yeah. So that's very important to understand. It's all in your mind. The wisdom I explained yesterday, you see, the mind was calmed down to the point where the mind disappeared. Because the mind is not an entity but an activity. And the activity stops. Like the candle flame. The flame is an activity. And when you blow it off means you can't ask the question, where did the flame go? Because the flame was not an entity. It was an activity, and the activity stopped. You understand? Now there is a story, very interesting story that I heard. Is coming from Dale Carnegie, who wrote How to Win Friends and Influence People. Huh?
How to influence people and
What?
how to stop worrying and start living?
Yeah, the same man. The important thing is, Henry Ford was the person who started the motor vehicle. Huh? So the Ford company was making cars, and they had the company, what was that called?
Ford, Chevy?
Line. It was assembly line. That's the word I was trying to find. Assembly line. You know what the assembly line is? So there are people in line, and one person is doing only one thing. Say, putting a nail, and he passes on to the next person, and that person will do another thing. See? So like that, it goes on at the end, the whole vehicle is made and finished. So they can produce many vehicles in a few hours. So like that, one man who was working like that, he had learned everything about making the vehicle, car. So he gets paid, no? So he collected all the money, and ultimately he bought a car from the same company. He bought the car, and he went home. Of his home was, of course, lot of neighbors where he was. He was not a very rich man, and so one house here, another house here, another house here, like that. So in his house, there was this car. The new car that he bought was just there in front of the house. And the neighbors came and looked. Oh, he has bought a new car. Eh? So the neighbors also, they were very happy that he had brought a car. Next morning, the following morning, people came and looked. The car was not there. The car was in pieces. That whole night this man was taking the car into pieces, you see. So morning they saw the car was in pieces. So then, why is he taking the car out like that? So, but anyway, they went and they were also doing jobs. They had to go and do jobs. The following day, the car was back again. He had put all the pieces together and he had made the car. Next day, again the car was in pieces. So these people were thinking, what is this man trying to do? So like that, about a week went, and the car comes back, again in pieces, again the car is there, then again in pieces. They were wondering what this man was doing. And then what he did was, he understood how the car is working, and not only that, he started a new company. That was Chrysler. Have you heard of Chrysler? Never. See? So in a similar way, the Buddha, he stopped the mind, started it all over again. Again he stopped the mind, started it again. And by doing that, he began to see how the mind is ultimately creating the whole world. So after he became awakened, there are two verses which today all the monks know about this and they recite this. It's good for you also to learn this. Aneka jati sansarang sanda vissang anibbisang gahakarakang gavesanto dukkha jati punappunam. That's the first verse. The second verse is gahakaraka dittosi punagehang nakahasi sabbete pasukha bhagga gahakutang visankitang visankara gatan chittang tanhayang kayamajjagati. That first verse was about his experience before he became awakened. The second verse was his experience after he became awakened. But most people, they recite this verse, they don't know the meaning. Aneka jati sansara means infinite number of lives. I have been traveling in this sansara, searching for the Creator, but I never met Him. It is very painful to be born again and again. That is the meaning of that. But he was searching for the Creator. Why? In order to stop this process. And that is what today people are all the time thinking about. The Buddhists are mainly, they think, if you want to be a Buddhist, you must believe in karma and rebirth and samsara. If you don't believe in this, you are not a Buddhist, they say. So for them, Buddhism is simply believing in karma and rebirth, and then nirvana for them is to stop rebirth. Did you understand that? But that is not Buddhism. Buddhism is, in the next verse, that this first verse was really talking about what the Indians believed before he became a Buddha. The Indians were thinking in terms of karma, rebirth and samsara. And he was also doing that. Now, in the modern Western religions, they are talking about this God who created the world. They are not trying to oppose what he was doing. But the people in India, they thought if there was a creator who created the world, that creator has created suffering. And so, now today the Christians, they say, they thank God for creating them. But the Indians, they were not thanking God for creating them. Now, now in the second verse, the Buddha says, Gahakaraka dittosi, I have seen you, Creator. You will not create anymore. I have broken all your supports, and the entire structure has been broken down. The mind has stopped creating. That emotional urge has ceased. There the Buddha points out that the creator was his own mind. So he has seen the creator. The creator is not some person outside who created the world. Your own mind is creating the world. Not only the world, that mental process is creating even yourself. That is his awakening from the dream of existence. Because he thought the world exists and I exist in the world. That is not correct. What there is simply that the world is created by this mental process. And that story, the explanation of how that mental process creates the world and how it creates the self, is what is called paticca samuppada. So the paticca samuppada is an explanation of how your mind is creating the world. You see, there are two kinds of Buddhism. what is called Sammuti Satya and Paramartha Satya. Sammuti Satya means conventional truth. Paramartha Satya means
Ultimate truth?
ultimate truth, yeah. You can use that word, ultimate truth. Now what that means is, if you think according to the ultimate truth, the conventional truth is false. If you think according to the conventional truth, the ultimate truth is false. That is very important to understand. That is why I said, awakening from the dream of existence. That dream of existence is the conventional truth. Because you are thinking, I exist, the world exists, I am existing in the world. Always thinking in terms of existence. And what is existence? You know this new physics called quantum physics? Have you thought about that? These people, physics is the science that is trying to understand the world. What the world is made of and how the world is behaving. Whatever is happening in the world, to understand how it is happening. You see, there are these two things called chemistry and physics. You know what that is? Chemistry is dealing with matter. There is a thing called matter. Matter means what exists. That which exists is matter. So to speak about matter is to speak about the existence of matter in time and space. It exists in time and space. So we are talking about entities. Entities are the things that exist in time and space. So we are all the time thinking in terms of entities that exist. Right? Physics is dealing with another aspect of this same thing. That aspect is motion, movement, how matter moves. And that motion is due to what is called energy. So physics is mainly dealing with energy. Chemistry is dealing with matter. Physics is dealing with energy. Movement, how matter moves. Now, if this moves from here to here, that is motion. and to study how that moved from here to here. How did it move? Because there was a force acting on that. This was here, there was a force acting on that, and so it moved. This is what Newton was talking about. And energy is that which moves. So like that, you see.
You were mentioning about quantum physics.
What?
You were mentioning about quantum physics.
Yeah. Now when we talk about quantum physics, because these normal physics, they were talking about matter as existing things, existing entities. So they went on breaking matter. They came to the molecule. Then they broke the molecule into atoms. And then they broke the atom also. And the atom became particles. Electrons, protons, neutrons. These are the particles that form the atom. Then they began to realize that these particles begin to behave as if it is not a particle. And they could distinguish between energy and matter. Because the particles began to move like waves. Is it a wave or is it a particle? Now they can't find out what is this. If it is a wave, it is energy. If it is a particle, it is matter. So energy goes in the form of waves. So when light comes from the sun here, one man started saying, light is also coming in the form of particles, not as waves. So what do you call the particle which is like a wave? That is what they call a quantum. A quantum means a quantity. So when you speak in terms of quantities, a quantity of energy, a quantity of energy is going. So instead of saying a particle is going, they had to say a quantity of energy is going. That is the quantum, you see. So like that, they began to get confused, and now they are trying to say, they are talking about the subjective experience and the objective experience. Now they are trying to distinguish between the subjective and the objective. So all these become complicated. This is why the quantum physics have become something very difficult to understand. So they call the Newtonian physics classical physics. And the quantum physics is the new physics. Huh? Have you read anything about quantum physics?
They have tried to prove rebirth through quantum physics.
What's that?
Some have tried to prove rebirth through quantum physics.
Deeper?
Rebirth
Rebirth.
through quantum physics.
Oh, who did that?
I don't know specifically, but I have read articles.
You know this man who wrote that book I met in Australia. This time when I went to Australia, he was there. He told me, he brought his book also, small booklet. He brought the booklet and gave me the booklet. And he was trying to prove rebirth. I said, I have given up talking about rebirth because that is a conventional truth and not the ultimate truth. He didn't understand that. He was mainly trying to prove rebirth. And there was no real proof there, although he thought he was claiming to be a great physicist. But I don't think he was such a great physicist.
Was he a Sri Lankan?
He was a Sri Lankan man
Granville
who had been teaching in the Sri Lankan university also.
Dr. Nalin De Silva.
Huh? What's that?
Dr. Nalin De Silva.
Maybe Nalinda Silva, yeah.
Dharmaratna.
What?
Granville Dharmaratna. Those are the two prominent Sri Lankans who have written on quantum physics and rebirth.
Nalin De Silva is in Sri Lanka.
Yes, and Granville Dharmaratna is known, he passed.
One of those people, I forget his name, so I met him. But that is a useless thing, because rebirth is also not a truth. So what is the use of proving it? This is why I said all the Buddhists think that the main thing is rebirth. If you are a Buddhist, you have to believe in rebirth. If you don't believe in rebirth, you are not a Buddhist. That is nonsense. But the thing is, if you want to understand Paticcasamuppada properly, you have to read that and learn, here it is, beyond the horizon of time.
Can you explain why Buddhists should not be concerned about rebirth?
Why Buddhists?
Should not be concerned about rebirth.
Rebirth, karma, and samsara, I would say.
The reason is,
That's going to take an eon to find.
you know, there is a sutra called Sabbasava Sutra. The Sabbasava Sutra in the Majjhima Nikaya.
That's the first one, no?
Not the first one, no. There the Buddha says, the ordinary Putujjana, the person who has not understood the Dhamma, he thinks, did I exist in the past? How did I exist in the past? Will I exist in the future? How will I exist in the future? Am I existing now? How am I existing now? He goes on questioning like this, and ultimately he comes to the conclusion, I exist or I don't exist. And his Sakkaya Ditthi, what I translate as the personality perspective. That means I am a person, I have a personality, I am a self.
for today. If you have any questions or concern, please contact us at info@buddhadharmatv.com. We work hard to share the noble, peaceful, and sublime teachings of the Buddha with you, and helping you persuade the spiritual path under his wisdom. Please encourage and support those interested in the rational and enlightened teachings of the Buddha. We believe our programs on Buddha Dharma TV will inspire peace lovers around the globe. Good night. Namo Buddhaya.